There are a ton of financial options out there for folks: 401ks, IRAs, HSAs. It's alphabet soup. Here's the other thing: everyone wants to retire early if they can. Who can blame them? Having complete freedom of your time and life is the ultimate goal. So, how do you pair those two things together? What financial tools are best if you're looking to retire early? I'm about to show you. So we're going to compare a few things here, but keep in mind that retiring early comes with a whole set of problems that retiring at a more conventional age, say 65, does not. For today's video, retiring early is the IRS definition of early, which means before 59 and a half. At 59 and a half, the IRS says you've reached retirement age and you can access your retirement accounts penalty free. But what if you want to go sooner than that? The rules vary depending on the account. I'm going to break down 3 of the most popular for you today. First, the mighty 401k. Everybody knows about 401ks. Most employers offer a 401k. And if you have one at your current employer and you retire prior to 59 and a half, you can use something called the rule of 55 to access the money penalty free. The rules are this: you got to be at least 55, hence rule of 55. Retiring earlier than that won't work for this rule. It's got to be money that comes from your current employer 401k. It can't be IRA money or money from an old 401k. So if you're planning to use this strategy as a bridge, you either need to leave enough in the 401k when you retire to cover the distributions, or you got to get more money into the account through contributions or rollovers from other plans in advance of retiring and separating from employment. Let's say you're going to need $50,000 a year for 4 years. You're retiring at 55 and a half. In that case, you want to leave at least $200,000 in the account to cover those 4 years of distributions. A couple of other things to this rule: if you're a public safety worker, think police, fire, that sort of thing, you can actually start this at age 50 or later instead of 55. It also works for 403Bs in addition to 401ks, but it's different for 457 plans. With a 457, if you left the job, you can pull the money anytime without a 10% penalty. It doesn't exist for 457s. They have their own distribution rules. Now, it's important to note on this: 1, you need to be 55 or later the year you leave employment. You can't leave at 52, wait to 55, and then start drawing the money penalty free. Also, taxes are still due on any distributions. It's the 10% early withdrawal penalty that you don't have to worry about. If it's money that's to be taxed, it's still going to be taxed. Second up, we're going to look at another popular option. This one works for IRAs, 401ks, simple IRAs, lots of qualified accounts. Let's say that you work for a company that has seen a huge stock price run up over the years. We're going to use Chipotle as our example today. You started out there, you loved it, you stayed. If you invested $500 in Chipotle at the IPO, and then you invested $500 a paycheck bi-weekly, now, today, your Chipotle stock is worth $3.66 million since you started investing in 2006. That's a lot of burrito money. Let's say that you were 30 when you started there. You're now 48 years old. You're sitting on almost 4 million beans. You want to retire. You say, hey, I think I got enough money. I want to retire early. Couple of things here. 1, shame on you for being so concentrated in your stock portfolio. It obviously worked out if this was the case, but come on, man, you can't have all that money in one stock. You got to diversify. 2, if this was done inside of a 401k, it's screaming for NUA. That's net unrealized appreciation. It's a huge way to save money on stock in a company 401k plan. More on that later. That's a hint. I'm going to do a video about NUA sometime. But back to the topic, you got $3.66 million. Let's say it's all Chipotle stock, and then you've got like $25,000 in a savings account. So if you want to retire, you're going to need to use the big money to fund retirement. And you have low expenses, and you think you can do it, and you want to retire. But remember, you're only 48 years old. You can use something called a 72T distribution to do it. Why is it called a 72T distribution? Because that's the name the IRS gave it. They don't name things fun stuff like super cool, awesome way to retire early rule. They'd rather call it something boring. It is what it is. A 72T distribution works this way. You can draw money from qualified accounts before age 59 and a half as long as you take substantially equal periodic payments, SEPP. You'll see that with the 72T, that acronym. There's a lot of math that goes into it, but essentially you have to take a calculated payment for at least 5 years or until you reach 59 and a half. You calculate the payments one of 3 different ways, all of which are dictated by the IRS, so they're specific dollar amounts. And if you do it right, there's no IRS early withdrawal penalty. Now, the payments have to be specific amounts, and you can't take more than the payment amounts without blowing up the whole strategy. There's even more that goes into it than this. I'm not going to bore you with all of the rules. It's an entire video topic on your own. But if you're in a situation like that, you got plenty of money, but it's all qualified money, and you'd like to retire very early, know that the 72T exists and talk to somebody about it for your scenario to see if it would work for you. Third, lastly, comes the non-retirement retirement account, the hero of the retiring early strategy. It's the non-qualified brokerage account, sometimes called the after-tax brokerage account. This is an investment account that you funded, you've built up over the years with after-tax money. It's actually not a retirement account at all. As a result, you can use this money anytime you want, any way you want, for any reason, and there's no such thing as an early retirement penalty. You might have taxes due depending upon the investments, but you're not going to have any penalties. So with an after-tax brokerage account, if you think that you are going to retire early, if that's a goal and you think that you can get there, save early and save often into this guy because it gives you the most flexibility. While it's not as tax efficient as a Roth IRA, for example, there are plenty of tax efficient ways to invest inside of the account. I actually did one. I'll link the video for you here in a second. And it's the most flexible when it comes time to spend the money. There's also no contribution limits. So if you're a high earner and you're eyeing an early exit, it's a great place to start stacking up money. Now, whether you're retiring early or at a normal retirement age, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is not spending their retirement money. Guess what? I did a video about that as well. I'm going to pop both the videos up. I think they go on this side. They might go on this side. They're going to come up on the screen in just a second.